Hi everyone, it's Raquel Bowman here, and today I'm here creating and sharing a layout for Altenew's 6th birthday hop. Now, I think that I have been a part of the Altenew birthday hops for at least the last three, maybe four. It could even be more. I'd have to have a look back through my blog. So I'm super excited and honoured to be asked to join in again today and create a layout as part of this hop. I have pulled together some of my Altenew stash, and I've decided that I'm going to create a layout focusing on these bright, beautiful stickers. These are from the Live Your Dreams kit, and then I also have some remnants of chipboard pieces as well, and I just really want to create a bright layout that has these as part of their focus. Now I have a really abundant stamp stash with Altenew, which I'm very lucky to have. I'm going to, I think, cut a title using maybe a mixture of some stamps and these fine alpha dies. These remind me of a font that I absolutely love on my computer and I use all the time in larger form for my classroom, but I was thinking of mixing these with maybe a sentiment that's on some stamps. So some of these would be a few years old and some are more recent. I really love ones like this that I can stamp black and fussy cut around and then use as a contrast. So I'm thinking of grabbing some of the finer sort of detailed floral stamps to be able to use around with these leaves. So one like this, maybe even this one, which I have used before on previous layouts. So I'm going to grab those, and then I was going to embellish with some of the enamel dots that I have that came as sort of they were sort of a separate pack or thing that you could purchase in the Altenew store, and I have them in a variety of colours, so I should be able to complement a lot of these stickers with the enamel dots that I have. So that's my thoughts. I don't actually even have a photo printed yet, which isn't like me. Normally I start with a photo and go from there, but when I saw these in my remnants of the Live Your Dreams collection kit, which I have used so much of, I've actually pretty much, these were the final sort of things that I hadn't used yet. This idea came to me, and I actually don't know why I haven't used these yet. I was quite surprised. So I'm going to stick these onto little bits of scrap cardstock that I have from when I cut down my white cardstock to 8.5 by 11, and then I'll fussy cut around them, and then I'll decide on and build my layout from there. I probably will frame my layout or have some kind of pattern paper on it somewhere. And you have to excuse my nails because this is the life of living inside and staying at home. So that's the reason these are looking so gorgeous right now. So I am going to get started on my sticking and fussy cutting, and then we'll see where this ends up. I'm super excited to be here, so let's get started. Okay, so to begin this layout, as I said, I went through and was sticking the clear stickers onto some white cardstock. I used the non-textured side of the cardstock to stick these on, just because I didn't want to have the sort of ridged look to the pieces that are going to end up to be more like ephemera once I've finished. So I chose off the clear sticker sheet, the bright ones, as I had explained at the beginning of this video. I absolutely adore how much these leaves pop off the white. I feel like they are so bright and vibrant, and I was getting really excited just at how they were looking, even just on the white cardstock without even being used or cut out yet. So my next step was to fussy cut them all out, as you saw, and automatically and super quickly I did that off camera, just so that you didn't have to sit through that process of me cutting out laboriously all of those florals and leaves. I wasn't too particular with how I cut around each of the edges. I sort of followed the outline of the sticker to do that, and you can see from my the video that I have chosen 2 photos. These were photos taken towards the start of March, just a family day that we had on a Sunday before all of this craziness happened that we are all going through in the world at the moment. So what I've grabbed out is the pinstripe stamp set, and it has a sort of a large pinstripe background stamp, and then what I really loved was these sort of multimedia mixed media looking dots that I thought if I used some black ink I'd have this really pop and contrast of color on my layout, and I really love a really bold black embellishment against really bright colors. So what I'm doing is just stamping a sort of vertical design down the page. I do end up covering quite a lot of this in the end, but I enjoyed the process of actually sort of putting this together, and at this point I wasn't sure of whether I was going to add pattern papers to the layout or how I was going to embellish the page. So I just ended up stamping all the way through that layout. So at the moment I'm just looking at how I can create a design onto the page, and I knew that I wanted to have these 2 photos, so one of my daughter and one of my son together, and I knew that I wanted to create these clusters around the floral 2 flower pieces with the leaves. So at the moment I'm just playing, so I'm using the bits and pieces that I have cut out from that clear sticker sheet, and I'm just arranging them in a design that I feel is pleasing to the eye, that I feel like balances the colors. So if I had, say, an aqua leaf, that I was sort of incorporating that into 3 of those clusters there. So there's one at the top left of the page, one at the middle right, and then one at the bottom left of the page. So at the moment that's sort of where my design is at, and as I was progressing through creating this layout I felt like I needed some pattern paper or some more layers in here. I did also know that I wanted to use that wood veneer piece that said love. I'd used every other word in the packet, so that was my final word that I had left. So I wanted to use that. And then, as I said at the start, I have these mini alphabet dies that are from Altenew as well. They're a beautiful thin capital font. So I'm just using my die cutting machine and cutting out the word for you and using one of the papers in the Live Your Dream kit to do that. And I chose the green, and looking at it now I feel like it gets a little bit lost on the black spots of the background. So I decided to adhere that onto some vellum, and the vellum just gives another layer and a bit of translucency, I suppose, as well, but it sort of just masks or muffles the brightness of those spots. My next thing that I wanted to do was just create a bit of a fishtail end to that. So to do that, I just fold my paper in half and then just cut that triangle out of the end. So I'm looking at the layout now, and as I said before, I felt like I still needed some pattern paper. I needed some layers. I'm definitely a lover of layers when I create my layouts. So I knew that I wanted to have something that just some extra, a bit of extra something. So you might cringe here as I pull everything off the layout, but that's normally my process, is that I'll put a layout together before adhering anything, and then I'll pull everything off and stick it all down. So I've created a bit of a banner looking piece of paper there, and I have used my sewing machine to stitch around the edges. It just gives it a little bit of extra detail and interest. And now I'm just adding a pop of pink, and that pink works really well with one of the flower pieces and just brings a bit of cohesiveness to behind the photo and joins and blends in the colour of the floral. So I'm using some foam sheet. I got this in Australia at Lincraft. It comes in like, it's a bit bigger, maybe it's a 6x8 pack of, say, 50 sheets. Normally you can get them on special for about $10. So I tend to use that for my larger pieces that I want to pop up with some foam adhesive. I know that some people choose to use cardboard as a cheaper alternative, so anything like that that just adds that bit of dimension. So now I'm going and adhering those clusters back, and they never turn out how I begin with my layout, but I end up sort of, once I'm putting things back together, I do change things sometimes slightly. Sometimes I might take a photo when I'm happy with how my layout is looking before I pull everything off, like you saw before. But for this particular layout, I didn't take a photo prior. So I'm going through and adhering those leaf pieces, and as I'm doing this, I'm just adding a little bit of adhesive using my fine line bottle just to the ends, and then I'm going to use my foam dots just to stick some of those leaves up and give that added dimension. I love sticking leaves to a layout where I'm putting the liquid adhesive down to the bottom of the leaf and then using a foam adhesive to the top just to give it that multi-dimensional look. So I'm adhering all those down. I am going to shortly start to work on the bottom cluster as well, and I do decide to add some interest. The middle of that flower to the right there was just looking a little bit plain, so I decided to use some of the enamel dots just to create the floral center. I really like how that turned out. I thought that that looked super cute, and then I will use more of those same colors of enamel dots just to scatter amongst the layout towards the end. So I'm working on adding the bottom cluster, but before I do that, I'm going to add some adhesive to this chipboard word. Now these chipboard words do have a sticky back, but I tend to just add a little bit of extra glue just in case, because we know that once layouts are in our albums, they can sometimes tend to the embellishments can tend to fall off and lose that stickiness over time. So that liquid glue is just giving that extra bit of reinforcement. So I'm adding down that bottom cluster, and the little banner at the bottom says something, I think it's Celebrate You maybe, something along those lines, and it just helps to, or Celebrate Today, sorry, it just helps to join in and sort of finished off that little cluster there. So I'm scattering some enamel dots now. I really love that sky blue color. It's so gorgeous. It's probably more minty actually. And then there was some pink ones that I chose to use. They were a really vibrant pink that sort of mimicked that hot pink that's in some of those leaves and that larger flower. And then to finish, I am going to add some typewritten journaling. I love to tell some kind of story on all of my layouts. Typewritten journaling tends to be my favorite. I don't particularly love my handwriting. I have a mixture between messy scrawl and teacher handwriting. So I find that I would prefer to get my story down, and to do that, I do that in a typewritten form. So I'm just adding a little bit about this is a Sunday family day, and just a bit of an overview of life with these two. So this layout is nearly done. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Altenew for letting me and inviting me to join in on this hop. I'm finishing off this layout with some close-up images of how it ended up turning out, and you can see the depth and dimension in the embellishments. And be sure to add a comment to my blog. There are some amazing prizes, and I will hopefully see you all soon. I have lots more time to be getting crafty at the moment, so I'm hoping to be in my craft room a bit more often. Bye everyone.